recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know what, earlier our colleague David O started out his comments with, does crime pay? And it certainly seems like it does for some people. And I'm referring to Wells Fargo and the resolution which we introduced earlier this afternoon. And, you know, I just wanted to make a couple of points about Wells Fargo and some of the concerns that I think that we all should have, and to state that I think it's really time for us to divest. Remember that word when we talked about South Africa and apartheid and that movement in the 80s, and it was a call to divest assets and for companies to divest and investments, and it made a difference and it worked. And at what point will we decide that we're going to make a difference in terms of these big companies who operate in ways which are completely unacceptable, and that we continue to forgive when they say that they're sorry? We continue to work with them, and we accept their apology. And by now we all know about Wells Fargo's business practices, and basically they've admitted to stealing and committed fraud by opening millions of bogus accounts. Now, if I open an account or you open an account in someone else's name and using their information, we'd be behind bars. Senator Elizabeth Warren suggested this, that there should be a criminal investigation into Wells Fargo, and she said, and I quote, "This just isn't right. A cashier who steals a handful of 20s is accountable. But a Wall Street executive almost never holds themselves accountable, not now, not in 2008, when they crushed the worldwide economy. The only way that Wall Street will change is if executives face jail time when they preside over massive frauds." And so I want to know, I'm just asking, and I think that this is something that we can discuss further in the hearing, why is the city of Philadelphia still doing business with a bank that has admitted to committing fraud? The state of California has decided to immediately suspend its relationship with Wells Fargo. And in case anybody hasn't noticed, California is a whole lot bigger than Philadelphia, and if they can do it, maybe we can do it too. And let's note that California is the nation's largest issuer of municipal bonds. California is now barring Wells Fargo from underwriting state debt and handling all banking transactions. So why aren't we? I'm looking forward to this hearing on this particular matter, and what we can do to, what kind of conversation we can have about beginning the process of divestment from Wells Fargo. There's got to be a lot more conversation about Wells Fargo. I know that Congress is having a hearing today, chaired by a congressman from Texas, who, according to the Today Show, recently received a $10,000 contribution from Wells Fargo. And he's chairing that committee today down in Washington, D.C., so that's very interesting. Just so everyone knows the facts, Wells Fargo opened about 2 million bank accounts for customers who were then charged fees, penalties, and damaged credit scores because they didn't know that these fees and penalties were then being sent to a collection agency. 5,300 employees, 90% of whom were hourly, were fired. No executives were fired or lost the bonus money that they received as a result of these 2 million bank accounts. It's the most valuable bank in the world, and right now, I just feel like Wells Fargo, you owe us, the city of Philadelphia, an explanation. We want to know how many Philadelphians were affected. We want to know how many Philadelphians lost their jobs. And this is a bank that holds $3 billion worth of deposits that run through from the city of Philadelphia. They owe us the answers. How many were fired? How many accounts were opened here in Philadelphia? What was the domino effect? Anyone who's ever bounced a check knows that there's a domino effect from that. There's bad credit, there's collections, there are other bills that are unpaid. What happens? And as we talked earlier about this week being, or in a few weeks being Med Week, as we talk about small businesses, how were people who operate small businesses affected? So it all comes full circle, and we look forward to the hearing and hearing answers from Wells Fargo directly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman.